So today I wanted to talk about an analogy that I heard. This was probably a couple years ago. It's about the ladder and the rope. So I forget how the story goes. It's like a building. You're trying to get to the top of the building. Maybe there's a fire at the bottom of the building. I can't remember exactly. But the point of the story is that imagine that there's a ladder and then there's a rope. And you're trying to get to the top of the building. And at the end of the rope, there's a person on the top saying, "Hey, don't climb that ladder. That's too much work. Just hold on to the rope and I'll pull you up or we'll pull you up." And yes, the ladder looks like a lot of effort. You're going to have to climb it up. You're climbing to the top of a building. It's not easy. Yes, the rope looks very enticing. Man, they're going to pull me up and that's great. And I can relax and it'll be great. But the point of the story is, or the analogy is that when while you're tempted to take the rope and have them pull you up, you are putting yourself into someone else's hands. They could pull you up, or they could not. I mean, you're put it. You have to be aware that that's the sacrifice that you're making. Is that you're putting your destiny, your control in someone else's hands. Maybe they'll pull you up, maybe they won't. And on top of that too, like, you should always be wary of trusting other people. Whenever they're trying to look out for your best benefit, or I'm gonna help you out. I got a surefire way to make money, or you know, anybody in this world, anytime the old saying, it's like if it's too good to be true, it probably is. I mean, it's one of those things. Whereas in the ladder, it it teaches you about self-reliance. Yeah, it may take you longer. Yeah, it may be difficult, but you ultimately learn that control is in your own hands, and that it's up to you. If you want to get up faster, you can get up faster. If you want to take your time, you can take your time. But uh, again, the control is all in your hands, and it teaches self-reliance. Um, yeah, I mean that's a story that I heard, or an analogy. I don't know if it's really a story, but that's just the one I heard a while back. Really made a lot of sense to me. It sounded like a lot of stuff that my parents told me. I've also, you know, through my experience in reading stuff and talking to people, I mean, I remember there was a psychology class I took in college. This was, years ago. It actually, funny story. This is how I was in college. Um, it wasn't even the psychology class that I was taking. It wasn't something I was signed up for. It was just one of my friends. Uh, she was taking the class, and one day I was just hanging around. This is the kind of student I was, man. I wouldn't go to any of my classes, but I would go to my friends' classes because I was bored and I didn't want to go to mine. So I'd go to and it's funny. It's really really funny because it was Dr. Spivey at UT Austin. So I don't know if he still teaches there. Has to be at least like 10 years, maybe 15 years ago. And you can look it up. Maybe he still teaches there, but I remember I took it. I went. It was just a random couple classes. I went to maybe 3 classes randomly, and one of the days I was there, he was talking about depression, and it was a big experiment with dogs and shocking dogs, and putting a bar. I want to go into this story. I want to explain the whole story because it's a pretty long story, but it teaches you about depression. Okay, so I'm gonna try to tell the story off of my memory. If I get it wrong, or if somebody actually knows the real study, please link it to me or let me know. But as far as this is a 15-year-old lecture of me remembering it. Um, the study went like this. They had a room. They had a room with bottom floor that was it was like metal, and you could electrify it, right? And they put a dog in the room, and they put a dog in another room. But the difference is that in one room they put a bar, like a little like, and oh shit, I hit spacebar and it stopped recording. Okay, is it still recording now? Okay, shit, it started recording again. I hit the fucking bar. I hit the bar, and my mouse was perfectly on on the record button, so it stopped recording. All right, get back. So there's a bar, and so what happened was they would have a timer that would go down. It would go deet 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 beep, and then at the beep they would shock the dog. Call it inhumane or whatever, but this is science, and this is especially science back then when stuff like this was seen as less horrifying. So it'd go deep, 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 beep, and then they would shock the dog, right? And so they had two different rooms. So in the one room there was nothing the dog could do. So it'd go beep, 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 and he'd get shocked, and then beep, 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 beep. It was like a timer, and then he'd get shocked, and he'd get shocked, and he'd get shocked, and eventually, like, he would just give up on life. He would just lie down because there was nothing he could do. Right? The shock was inevitable. There's no control, and then eventually they raised the shock even more and more and more, and the dog would just sit there and take it. It would lie on the ground, defeated, and just be shocked. Whereas in the other room, because they had that bar, the dog learned, like, he'd freaking out when it gets shocked. It got shocked. It got freaked out, but it just started, like, being desperate, trying to do anything. And it found that the bar, every time it hit the bar, it would interrupt the shock. So, and as long as he hit the bar in time, he wouldn't get shocked. And then what they do? Then they stop the bar from working. So even if the dog hit the bar, it would still get shocked. And the countdown would still go down, 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 down. And then he was frantically hitting on the bar, and all of a sudden the bar wasn't working anymore. And, again, the dog is freaking out and trying to do everything to get out and not get shocked. And, they raised the bar. It was jumping up and down trying to, get out, and it couldn't get out. And so then they started raising the shock up to the point, and this is what I remember specifically from the lecture. I remember specifically the Dr. Spivey saying that they raised the shock, and he was like, I could never do these experiments myself, but thank goodness for the people who, not thank goodness, but he was like, good on the people who did, because it taught people, about human nature, about dogs, about how the brain works, that kind of thing. But because the dog, they had raised the shock up to the point where the dog was actually, to the point where the shock was actually throwing the dog back. That's how, like, violent the amount had been raised. And the dog was every time he got shocked, he would get knocked back, but the lesson of the lesson learned was that the dog didn't give up, regardless, and he kept fighting and fighting and jumping and trying to get out and trying to find a way. And why is that? And that's because he was trained, or he learned that, his life or the situation was in his control, that no matter how dire it was, there was something he could do to stop the shock. But the problem is he just had to find it. So, I mean, I heard that story probably 15 years ago, and it's always stuck with me. It's always stuck with me, as far as, you have to be in your control of your life. You have to know that no matter how dire it looks or how depressed you are, there is something you can do. There has to be a bar. And if you don't believe that, then you're going to be depressed, and you're going to lie down, and you're just going to let everything wash over you. And you can't do that. You just have to keep fighting, man. Yeah, and it was a really emotional day of class. I still remember so clearly. It's crazy because it was like so many years ago. I mean, I didn't learn much from college. I didn't take school very seriously, but just for some reason on one random day, I went to a class that wasn't my class, and I learned that lesson. It's kind of weird. And I've always looked back on it and just very, very, like, appreciative. So, it's funny. I didn't expect to be talking about that today. I just was wanting to talk about a ladder and a rope, and now I don't know. Maybe I'll do a better video. This is just a quick one that I just, this morning I woke up and put together. So if somebody can find me the study so I can actually, give some actual data or credits, that would be very helpful. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I told the story right. Maybe I left out some details. Sorry. Thanks, guys. Bye.